despite being the wealthiest country in the world, with a GDP of over 23 trillion US dollars and one of the highest GDPs per capita, over 75,000 US dollars in 2022. Millions of people in the U.S. are food insecure and on the verge of hunger. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, over 10% of U.S. households struggle with food insecurity. As of 2021, it is estimated that almost 34 million people lived in food-insecure homes. 8.6 million adults lived in households with inadequate food security, and 9 million children lived in food-insecure households in which children, along with adults, were food insecure. In 2021, over 53 million people turned to food programs. The overall number of people living under harsh conditions in the U.S., almost equal to the entire population of neighboring Canada, with 38 million people. In this video, we will go through 5 reasons why millions of people in the U.S. are poor and fighting hunger. But before continuing, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos on fascinating economic topics. Number 1. Unemployment. Unemployment is one of the critical reasons for poverty and hunger in any country of the world. Although 3.4% unemployment rate seems not bad for the U.S. briefly, it pertains to millions of people, as the country's labor force exceeds 165 million people. Indeed, the U.S. unemployment rates are better than in some African countries like South Africa or Djibouti, where a third of the working population is unemployed. The issue should be addressed. Thus, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 5.6 million people were unemployed as of January 2023. To put it into perspective, the U.S. has more unemployed citizens than the entire population of Norway. One of the most significant unemployment problems is among different races and ethnic groups. For example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics report in 2020 says, among the race groups, jobless rates were higher than the national rate for American Indians and Alaska Natives 11.7%. People categorized as being of 2 or more races 11.6%, blacks or African Americans 11.4%, and for people of Hispanic or Latino ethnicity at 10.4%. Number 2. Low wages and income. Salaries are crucial when purchasing goods and services that are essential for sustaining high living standards. The official data shows that, in the last quarter of 2022, the median weekly wages of the $118.80 full-time workers were $1,085, more than 7% higher than the year before. At this rate, an average full-time worker in the U.S. earns about $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Although such income may seem relatively high, we should remember that these are median numbers, so millions earn less than the above numbers. For instance, the Brookings Institution research of 2019 found that 53 million Americans between the ages of 18 to 64, accounting for 44% of all workers, qualify as low wage. Their median hourly wages are $10.2 US dollars, and median annual earnings are about $18,000. The report adds that nearly 2/3 of low-wage workers are in their prime working years of 25 to 54. This means that young and the most capable Americans are stuck with low-quality jobs, which have the risk of not earning enough in the long term. And the essential part of the research is that 30% of low-wage workers live in families earning below 150% of the poverty line. These workers get by on very low incomes, about $30,000 for a family of 3 and $36,000 for a family of 4. Moreover, over a quarter of the low-wage workers, about 14 million people, are the only earners in their families, getting by on median annual earnings of about $20,000, which puts them under the official federal poverty level, established by the Department of Health and Human Services, if the only earner provides for the family of 3 and more. Number 3. Rising inflation. The prices of goods and services, significantly affect the average household's ability to buy food. For the last 2 years, the inflation rates in the U.S. have been extremely high. For example, in 2020, inflation was only 1.0%, which is considered normal by the standards of the Fed Reserve. In 2021, it rose to 4.7%, while in 2022, it surged to 8%. June was the worst month in this regard, as inflation reached a 40-year high of 9.1%. Moreover, the recent figures issued by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics say that food prices at home and away from home increased by 10.1% and 11.4% in the last 12 months. This, of course, worsened the access to food, already vulnerable parts of the population. The Consumer Price Index for food items like cereal and bakery went up by 15.6%, while fruits and vegetables by 7.2% and dairy-related products by 14%. The index for food away from home rose 8.2% over the last year. The index for full-service meals rose 8.1% over the last 12 months, and the index for limited-service meals rose 6.7% over the same period. Lastly, energy bills and shelter prices also forced families to shrink their budgets, as during 2022, electricity was more expensive, almost 12%, and shelter by 8%. Economists think that the pandemic has influenced consumption change, affecting the prices of food and services. If you want to know more about U.S. inflation, check out the channel's latest video on the topic. Number 4. Speaking of the pandemic, it is the fourth reason that exacerbated poverty levels in the United States. A Human Rights Watch analysis of public-use microdata from the Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey shows that the pandemic's economic fallout has a devastating and disproportionate impact on the rights of low-income people who were already struggling. Pew Research Center reiterates the claim. According to their inquiry, from 2019 to 2020, the median income of lower-income households decreased by 3.0%, and the median income of middle-income families fell by 2.1%. In contrast, the median income of upper-income households in 2020 was about the same as in 2019. And since lower-income households cannot afford to buy technology at the rate of high-income families, it also slows the growth out of poverty. Number 5. Geography. The U.S. is a vast country, and poverty is not spread equally. Some regions are economically less developed than others, determining the poverty rates. The map provided by the USDA explains a lot. In the United States, people living in poverty tend to be clustered in certain regions, counties, and neighborhoods, rather than spread evenly across the nation. Research has shown that the people living in areas where poverty is prevalent face impediments beyond those of their individual circumstances. Basically, if a family lives in a non-metro county, which according to USDA is generally adjacent or non-adjacent, if it physically adjoins one or more metro areas and has at least 2% of its employed labor force commuting to central metro counties, transportation in those areas would be more expensive. Although housing may be more affordable in non-metro areas, the quality of it is a concern. Hit the like button and subscribe. That way, you will support the channel in producing more videos.